Childhood emotional neglect is one of the most misunderstood forms of trauma because it leaves no visible scars. There are no bruises to explain, no single memory that feels dramatic enough to justify the pain. Instead, there is a quiet absence that stretches across years, shaping a child's inner world in ways they cannot name. It is not defined by cruelty. It is defined by emptiness. A child may grow up in a home where meals are provided, school is attended, and basic responsibilities are met. From the outside, everything appears functional, but inside that child, something essential is missing. There is no consistent emotional presence. No one notices subtle shifts in mood. No one asks questions that go deeper than performance or behavior. No one sits with the child in moments of fear, sadness, or confusion long enough for those feelings to feel safe, and so the child learns an early lesson, not in words, but in sensation. My emotions exist alone. This is where emotional neglect begins, not when a child is yelled at or punished, but when they are unseen. Human children are not born knowing how to regulate emotions. They learn it through connection, through being mirrored, through having their internal world acknowledged by someone more developed than them. When that process is missing, the child does not simply become independent. They become emotionally self-contained, sealing off parts of themselves that never received a response. The child tries, at first. They express sadness, only to be told they're overreacting. They express fear, only to be dismissed. They express excitement, only to be ignored. Each attempt is a quiet reaching outward, and each non-response teaches the same lesson. There is no one on the other side. Eventually, the child stops reaching. This is not a conscious decision. It is a biological adaptation. When expression leads to nothing, the nervous system conserves energy by shutting down that pathway. The child does not think, "I am neglected." They think, "I shouldn't feel this." And slowly, they begin to edit themselves. They become less expressive, less demanding, less visible, not because they don't have needs, but because their needs were never met with care. This is how emotional neglect turns inward and becomes shame. The child assumes the absence of emotional response is evidence of personal failure. They internalize the belief that if they were more interesting, more lovable, more important, someone would notice. So instead of expecting care, they begin striving to be worthy of it. They become hyper-aware of others. They monitor moods. They adapt their behavior to avoid discomfort. They learn that love is not something you receive, it's something you earn by being easy to deal with. This is where emotional neglect quietly reshapes identity. The child becomes mature for their age. They don't ask for much. They don't cause problems. They handle things on their own. Adults often praise this, but what they are really praising is self-erasure, because inside that child is a growing confusion, a sense that something is missing but no language to explain it. There is sadness without a story, loneliness without isolation, pain without permission. And because emotional neglect does not come with a clear narrative, the child cannot grieve it. There is nothing to point to, nothing to protest. So the grief stays unformed, stored quietly in the body, waiting. By the time the child grows older, emotional suppression no longer feels like a strategy. It feels like personality. They don't say, "I don't express my feelings because no one responded." They say, "I'm just not an emotional person." But the emotions are still there. They are simply buried beneath years of adaptation. This is the cruelty of emotional neglect. It teaches a child to disappear without ever leaving the room. When emotional neglect continues over time, the child's nervous system adapts in a way that is both brilliant and tragic. It learns to survive without regulation, without reassurance, without emotional repair. And what begins as adaptation slowly becomes identity. A child who is emotionally neglected does not stop feeling. They stop expecting response. This distinction matters because when emotions arise in an environment where no one responds, the body learns to hold them in isolation. There is no co-regulation, no calming presence to help the nervous system return to safety. So the child learns to self-regulate prematurely, using whatever tools are available: suppression, distraction, dissociation, intellectualization. Over time, this creates a child who appears calm on the surface but is internally tense. Their nervous system never fully settles because it was never taught how. Calm was not modeled. Comfort was not reliable, so the baseline becomes alertness. This is why many emotionally neglected children grow into adults who say, "I can't relax." Even when their life is stable, their body does not recognize safety as familiar. Safety feels foreign. Unstructured time feels uncomfortable. Stillness feels exposed, because stillness once meant being alone with feelings no one helped them carry. Emotional neglect teaches the nervous system that connection is uncertain, and emotions are risky, so the body stays prepared, not for catastrophe, but for disappointment. This creates a quiet hypervigilance, not the kind that panics, the kind that watches, always monitoring tone, always noticing shifts, always adjusting. The child learns that love does not come through emotional presence, but through compliance, through being agreeable, through not needing much. Silence becomes the language of love, and silence becomes safety. As the child grows, they may struggle to identify what they feel in real time. When asked, "How are you?" their mind goes blank, not because they don't feel anything, but because they were never taught to track internal states with curiosity and care. This is called emotional attunement failure. Without attunement, emotions become confusing, vague, overwhelming when they finally surface. So the child, and later the adult, learns to stay ahead of them, to stay busy, productive, useful. Doing becomes safer than feeling. This is why emotional neglect often produces high-functioning adults, people who work hard, take responsibility seriously, and rarely fall apart publicly. On the outside, they seem stable. On the inside, they feel disconnected from themselves. They may describe it as emptiness, or numbness, or a sense that something is missing but unnamed, and because nothing bad enough happened, they dismiss it. They tell themselves, "Others had it worse. I should be grateful. This is just how life is." But the body remembers what the mind minimizes. The unmet need for emotional presence does not disappear with age. It simply changes form. In adulthood, it often shows up as a deep hunger for connection, paired with an equally deep fear of it. They want closeness, but don't know how to receive it. They want to be seen, but don't know how to reveal themselves. They want support, but feel ashamed for needing it, because early on, needing meant being alone. One of the most painful legacies of emotional neglect is the belief that love must be earned through emotional restraint, that being too much will push people away, that expressing pain will create distance instead of care. So the adult continues the pattern. They listen more than they speak, they give more than they ask for, they offer understanding instead of vulnerability. And slowly, resentment builds, not toward others, but toward themselves. Because a part of them still hopes that if they are good enough, quiet enough, strong enough, someone will finally notice what they never learned how to ask for. This is not entitlement, this is delayed grief. Grief for the emotional safety that should have been the foundation of childhood. Grief for the conversations that never happened. Grief for the comfort that was never offered. And that grief does not need fixing, it needs witnessing. Because emotional neglect did not make you weak, it made you adaptive. But adaptation is not the same as wholeness, and what was learned in silence can be unlearned, not through force but through presence.